Messi, hash. Messi, hash. Any clue what those two have in common? It's probably not what you might think. Well, there is a hash smuggler who is such a big fan of Messi that he adopted one of the world's best football players' last name as his own nickname. Where Messi dominated on the football field, the man we're covering in this video dominated on the waters of the Strait of Gibraltar. At the peak of his career, he was responsible for the large majority of hash that entered Europe. All he needed was a speedboat in open waters to make tens of millions. After he got arrested, it seemed as if his game was over. But just like Messi, he would prove to be elusive, very elusive. This is the story of Abdellah El-Hajj, also known as the Messi of hash. Abdellah El-Hajj Sadek El-Menbri, as his full name goes, is also known as the Messi of hash. He was born on the 11th of July 1983 in Tangier, Morocco, as the eldest of 5 siblings. At age 14, Abdellah and his family moved to Algeciras, a city in the southern region of Spain, diagonally across Tangier. As he got older, Abdellah slowly started getting himself involved in the lucrative hash trade as a low-level dealer. In 2000, at age 17, a friend offered him an opportunity. Abdellah could join him to struggle hash via a boat from La Línea de la Concepción to Malaga. He got €1,500 and it was the first trip of many. Not much later, he and his friend bought their own first boat, then the second, and then the ball started rolling. As time passed, Abdellah found himself at the helm of his own organization that mainly operated from the Campo de Gibraltar, an organization that he had set up in a pretty clever way. Instead of it being one group, Abdellah divided his associates in a number of independent cells, which could all operate autonomously. He opted for the structure so that if one cell got arrested, it would not prevent business from continuing its operations or take out the entire organization. His Moroccan roots would prove valuable, as Morocco is a country well known for its cultivation of hashish. According to the United Nations, they supply 70% of Europe's hash market. To give you an idea, in 2021, 73,000 hectares of land was used to grow the product, mainly in the mountains of the Rif. The Rif Mountains are located on the northern part of the country, right across the southern part of Spain, with only the Strait of Gibraltar separating the two by 14.3 kilometers on its narrowest parts. The Strait of Gibraltar would become Abdellah's playground. Each cell would work accordingly. Some of his associates would first pick up the bales of hash from the Moroccan producers and transport it to safe houses close to the coast. In these safe houses, the hash would be marked, divided, and loaded into cars that would head towards the boats. The boats would be loaded, after which, the most dangerous part of the journey would start once the time was right. A highly experienced driver would guide the boat, and oftentimes tons of hash across the Strait of Gibraltar. If all went well, the boat could go from coast to coast in a matter of 20 to 30 minutes thanks to its very strong 350 horsepower engines. Once ashore in Spain, Abdellah's associates over there would load the bales into cars and bring it to different safe houses. From these safe houses, it would be distributed up north into Europe. A skilled boat driver could earn up to €50,000 per successful shipment, scouts on land up to €1,500, and car drivers up to €3,000. The boat driver is obviously the most valuable link in the smuggling chain. The scouts check to see if everything is clear on the shore as well as on the waters, with the help of drones. In terms of safely moving the bales of hash on land from and to safe houses, there are usually 3 vehicles involved. One to pave the way, one to carry the load, and another one to ram into any police patrol bold enough to chase them. The safe houses are equipped like fortresses, containing enough weapons to repel potential attacks by rival gangs. The rule is, don't let anything or anyone get in the way, not on sea nor on land. Just like that, Abdellah and his organization would go on to smuggle tons and tons of hash into Europe. A police report even suggested that he sometimes smuggled up to 8 tons a day on average. Despite not being behind the wheel of the boats himself, some say that Abdellah's success rate was as high as 90% to 95%, mainly due to his meticulous planning and highly skilled associates. So, you may still ask yourself, why the name Messi of hash? I briefly touched on it already, but besides being a large-scale hash smuggler, Abdellah was also an avid football player and a fan of Messi in particular. He always played soccer and wore number 10 every time, similar to Messi. But also off the field, he gladly sported Messi gear. Even his hash was stamped with the Messi 10 logo. He gladly adopted the nickname and ran with it. Though it must be said that he also had an autographed Sergio Ramos gear and posed with Real Madrid's president. Abdellah was just a huge fan of soccer in general. He even financed his own football team called El Pollo DG. During away games, he treated them to hotel stays and dinners. Winning the championship was celebrated with a luxury seafood meal for the entire team, and of course, all paid for by Abdellah. In 2015, Abdellah and several of his associates got arrested. Spanish police thought they had successfully dismantled the entire organization, but little did they know was that Abdellah was 2 steps ahead. Remember how he set up his organization? Autonomous cells. For unknown reasons, he was released pretty quickly, and business immediately went on as if nothing had happened. In January 2016, a new investigation into Abdellah started after Spanish police noticed that especially the coasts of Cadiz and Malaga were flooded with hash again. This showed that his organization wasn't dismantled after all. The operation was called Barbados. Investigators found that by then, Abdellah had built a net worth of tens of millions, had plenty of corrupt contacts in Morocco and Spain, owned a lot of real estate and various businesses throughout both countries as well, never stayed in one place too long, always traveled with guards, and even switched his phone number every 3 to 7 days. Because of the structure of his organization, they weren't quite sure how many associates he had. All they knew was that he was the biggest player in the hash game, and they wanted to get him behind bars. In January 2017, Abdellah fled from Spain back to Morocco after he had received intelligence about the operations against him. But after just 2 months, he returned to Algeciras to attend a performance of a famous Algerian singer in one of his establishments called Shisha Beach. Shisha Beach was a sort of upscale shisha lounge and showpiece that Abdellah gladly used to launder his money with. It even hosted Chris Brown. Spanish Guardia Civil and Policía Nacional Interior received this intel that Abdellah would attend Shisha Beach and decided to meticulously plan an operation. It was all with the aim to arrest Abdellah and his associates once again and dismantle the entire organization, this time for good. On the 11th of March 2017, Abdellah arrived as expected, and the officers decided to let him settle in for a while. Then, it was go time. The police officers entered the establishment but were confronted by bodyguards of Abdellah. One of them attacked the officers with a knife, wounding 2 of them. The bodyguards put up such a good fight that it disturbed the entire operation. Abdellah was able to escape the building and got into a car. A high-speed chase ensued, but Abdellah was too fast. He got on board of a boat and quickly went across the Strait of Gibraltar back to Morocco. Abdellah really started living up to his nickname Messi because he was just as swift and elusive. He may have escaped that day, but a few days later, 19 of his men were arrested, and police managed to deal a significant blow to his organization. Nearly 12,000 kilos of hash were seized, large sums of cash, boats, multiple weapons, properties, as well as luxury cars. At the far end of November 2017, it seemed as if Messi's adventure finally came to a halt. Abdellah got arrested again after another successfully carried out raid by the Guardia Civil against him and his organization. You'd think by now they would have a very strong case against him and were able to lock him up for many years to come. Well, stick with me, because Abdellah's story took an unexpected turn. Because shortly after his arrest, Abdellah was suddenly released after paying $80,000 of bail money. How was that possible? Abdellah managed to come to this controversial agreement with Juan Cisneros, the chief prosecutors of Algeciras. Funnily enough, this agreement was signed off right in the midst of Algeciras' anti-drug chief being replaced, leaving Juan as the only man in charge of making the decisions. It caused significant discomfort amongst the agents involved. After all their hard work, they saw their target out on bail, living life. Prosecutor Juan defended and justified the signing, but his reasoning was odd to say the least. The officers involved remained bitter. In March 2019, news outlets started reporting that Abdellah had disappeared from Spain. One of the rules of the probation deal was that he would have to present himself every single day to the Spanish authorities. Not a day could be missed, or he would be arrested. He was supposed to do that until the trial would start in 2020. Abdellah obediently did so after his release from prison, but on the 13th of March 2019, he decided not to anymore. One of Abdellah's lawyers handed over a letter to newspaper Europa Sur on the 13th of March saying, "I herewith communicate my decision to disappear for some time, because I am truly afraid for my well-being, safety, and that of my family. All of this is because of the enormous police pressure I am being subjected to. The police surveillance is increasingly getting more relentless, and my emotional stability has been so compromised that I suffer from a depression I have to treat. Last week, when I visited Madrid, was the final straw. When I left Atocha station, I was being chased by police cars to my hotel where I stayed with my family. All my movements are monitored by relentless police supervision. I suffered physical harassment, and my family is equally harassed. What do you think? Was there some truth to his story, or was it just a good excuse to flee before the trial began? Let me know in the comments. In 2021, there was yet another large-scale operation against Abdellah's organization. Multiple raids took place in Spain that led to several arrests of Abdellah's associates and seizures of bales of hash, money, and firearms. Police called it a successful operation, but Abdellah was once again nowhere to be found. At the far end of September 2022, Europol released its newly updated Most Wanted list. This time accompanied by a fancy-looking video hashtagged with Game Over, which explains that a criminal organization is just like a house of cards. Take one card away, and the entire structure collapses. They must not have heard about Abdellah's organizational structure yet, I guess. Europol's executive director, Catherine de Boll, said, "It couldn't be simpler for EU citizens to take part in this campaign. One small action from you could mean a dangerous fugitive is arrested and charged, saving potential victims. Check the website and help us find them." Prominently featured on this newly updated list was none other than Abdellah El-Hajj, the Messi of hash himself. An interesting fact about such campaigns and their effectiveness is that ever since it started back in 2016, 335 profiles of fugitives have been listed, of which 120 have been arrested, and 43 of those were directly influenced by the Europol website. It obviously is not a 100% given that a featured criminal is immediately arrested, but it definitely adds some pressure to become more aware and move differently as a fugitive criminal. Or that's what you would think, at least. This definitely wasn't the case for Abdellah, because staying under the radar wasn't something he was keen on doing. Despite police efforts and increasing pressure to catch him, Abdellah continued to live a luxurious life back in Morocco, renting out entire lounges for his friends and bodyguards. He enjoyed being in the public, going to events, and even organized parties himself, featuring well-known Moroccan artists. He even attended and played in a public football match in December 2023. Abdellah could be seen as the captain of his team in a red and white kit, which of course featured number 10 as a direct reference to Messi. As the picture surfaced, Spanish and Moroccan newspapers were quite shocked. Many people knew about his attendance, and he still left the match unhindered. How could a man featured on Europol's Most Wanted live so freely and even play in a public football match? It's a question which has yet to be answered. In addition, Spanish authorities know for a fact that Abdellah has not stopped smuggling hash. In fact, he grew his operation. Instead of solely smuggling hash, it is now expected that he has set up his own hash production in Morocco by potentially taking his current suppliers out of the equation. Abdellah's revenues will most likely skyrocket. The question is, can he remain out of the hands of the police? He has been arrested several times by now, and his luck could be running out. If there's anything new to the story, I'll be sure to update you as always. All you have to do is subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, please don't forget to leave a like and a comment sharing your thoughts.